My name is Teresa Labuszewski. I'm a member of this congregation, and I'd like to welcome you to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Niagara Falls. I am entitling this talk, What I Learned About Artificial Intelligence at Chautauqua, or How I Spent My Summer Vacation. So let's start with our chalice lighting. If you want to join me, may the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And this is the time when we usually share with each other ups or downs that we've experienced over the week. Is there anybody who would like to share a joy or concern?
Well, yesterday was Emerson's 7th birthday, and we had the birthday party, and it was just joyous, beautiful weather, and my husband got the yard cleaned up beautifully, and we had the 5 cousins. They were jumping on the trampoline and playing in the sprinkler, and it was just a great, joyous day. And he's home right now doing his little archaeology dig kit that he got for his birthday, so he's very pleased. He thought it was the best day ever. Oh, and in the morning we went out to the whole family and homestead. They have Revolutionary War reenactment, and they were teaching us all this spy codes and different things and muskets and stuff like that. So he had a great day.
Hi. Okay, I would just like to point out 2 recent high levels of senses of accomplishment for our church and congregation. One is these are attributed to members or tenders or whatever. I won't go who they are, but those of us who know who they are, they can express their appreciation. But one is the complete refurbishing of our sign. It's been nicely painted and reinstalled. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was referring to. And the other was our great evening Wednesday night at the LaSalle Yacht Club. That was an incredible time to be together in such a beautiful setting. And both of these things are high levels of senses of accomplishment, which we need to strive for as a group and an individual.
Anybody else?
I did want to mention the dinner as well, how nice it went, and we got to visit with Rob and Marie. And so when we left, me and my husband made arrangements. So last night, that's where we went. We spent the evening with Rob and Marie in their house. It was so nice to see them, and they have such a beautiful home, and they love being home, so it's hard for them to come here. But it was a really nice night.
So every year, I look forward to my week at the Chautauqua Institution. So I'm going to try and paint a little picture for people who've never been there of what Chautauqua is like. It's currently celebrating its 150th year, so there's lots of stuff going on related to the founding of Chautauqua. It was started as a religious organization whose mission was to train teachers. Before we had a public school education system, most people learned to read and write through religious education in the church, reading the Bible. The Bible was one book that most Americans had access to. Over the years, it's become a place for intellectuals and wealthy people to spend their summers. They learn, they socialize, they enjoy the arts. Religion and education are still at the core of their mission. Currently, they have summer schools for dance, art, music, and literature. Students compete for places at the schools, and the institution has its own library, has its own newspaper, and it has the amphitheater, which holds thousands of people, where they have concerts, dance recitals, and religious things like It also has one of the world's largest outdoor pipe organs. I never knew there was such a thing till I went to Chautauqua. It is beautiful. It's a big fixture on the stage at the amphitheater. The homes there are beautiful. A lot of them are old Victorian homes that were built in the 1860s. Some of them are like 4 stories. And of course, there are no elevators or anything, and they have these narrow little staircases you have to climb up to get to the top. But there are also newer, more modern homes that have been built. They're very expensive to own, and it's very expensive to stay there normally and to attend a week. It is a gated community. You can't get on or off campus without a pass. So they're open during the summer, and each week during the summer has a particular theme. The music, the lectures, and the religious services are all coordinated with the week's theme. The speakers are experts in their fields, from politicians to authors to musicians to filmmakers. We've seen Yo-Yo Ma, we've seen Wynton Marsalis, we've seen Jamie Raskin, we've seen Sandra Day O'Connor, Ken Burns. I mean, they're pretty amazing. Every night there's a concert in the AMP. There are lectures during the day. It's a walking and biking community. There are roads on campus, but there's very little car traffic. It's pretty much you bring your car on campus to load and unload your stuff, but the rest of the time you either walk, bike, or they do have buses and trams if you're not able or don't feel like getting around with your legs. So every major religion is represented, and they all tend to cooperate with each other. Many use each other's spaces for their services. There's a church that's on campus and has its own building called Hurlbut Church, and that's where the Jewish Shabbat services are held, or they're held down, if it's nice out, in the park down by the lake. So there are daily services for most of the denominations. They have them early in the morning. And then there's a non-denominational, though mostly Christian service an hour later in the amphitheater. And the people who preach these services come from lots of different denominations and from all across the country. I've heard some really good ones, and I've heard some really bad ones there. So the program that I attend, and Kathy and Wally and Betsy and Peter have attended, is something called Chautauqua on a Budget, because, as I said, it's very expensive to go there. You stay in the dormitories that they have for the kids, and the dormitory rooms are like dormitory rooms of old. They're like 10 by 12. You share a bathroom with the person in the room next to you. You eat in the cafeteria, you get 2 meals a day, and you get access to everything on campus for a pretty reasonable amount of money compared to what it is staying in a private, because I've stayed in private places because the Chautauqua on a Budget traditionally has only been the last 2 weeks when they don't have students in the dorms because they've all gone back to school. So the week's theme when I was there in week 2 was the artificial intelligence revolution. The sacred song service usually starts the week out. It's on Sunday night. People who wish to attend meet in the amphitheater, and there are readings, and we all join together in song. It's really pretty powerful when you have a few thousand people getting together and singing together. Even if you don't know the hymns or you don't always like the words of the hymns, you can through the part you don't like or hum. But it really is powerful having large groups of people together just singing together. The religious music director, Josh Stafford, this week designed the service, the sacred song service, and I brought the booklet with me if anyone wants to look at it. He used ChatGPT to generate everything for the sacred song service this year. So he started with a prompt asking ChatGPT to craft a title for an evening sacred song service at Chautauqua Institution that will utilize prayers generated by AI ChatGPT, noting that the week's Chautauqua lecture series is titled The AI Revolution, and the interfaith lecture series theme is Religion's Intersections, Interdisciplinary Imagination with Science, Technology, and AI. You can see that that prompt is very, very specific, and later on, I'll be telling you about why it's that specific. So ChatGPT replied with this name, Sacred Synthesis, Artificial Intelligence Prayers in Dialogue with the Intersections of Faith and Technology. He next asked, what words would you want to share with the congregation at this service? And I'm not going to read the whole thing because ChatGPT was pretty wordy, but I will read the first couple paragraphs. It's kind of impressive. Good evening, everyone. It is a profound honor to gather here tonight as we embark on a journey of exploration and wonder, embracing the theme of sacred synthesis. In this sacred space, we recognize the divine threads woven into the fabric of our existence, bridging the realms of faith, science, technology, and artificial intelligence. As we come together under the evening sky, let us celebrate the awe-inspiring complexity of the universe, from the intricate dance of subatomic particles to the vast expanse of galaxies. Each discovery, each innovation reflects a deeper understanding of the divine order that underpins all creation. And then there's some more, and then let us open our hearts to the possibilities that lie ahead, embracing the sacred synthesis that binds us all. Together, may we walk this path with grace, courage, and a profound sense of wonder. Amen. So then, one of the other things that Josh asked ChatGPT to do was to write a hymn text that could be sung to Talus's canon. And Talus's canon is, you'll recognize the melody when you hear it. But I asked Patty if she could sing that for us. So
This is going to be a little tricky. Yep. I'm going to read the music over here and then the lyrics over here, so it might be a bit discombobulated. In sacred harmony we stand, with wisdom's light to guide our hand. Through faith and science we explore In wisdom's light we journey on. It can be done.
Thank you. So what I found so amazing, ChatGPT didn't write the music, but the fact that it could put lyrics to the rhythm and tune that fit is a little bit mind-blowing. So the next day, on Monday, we had somebody whose name was Joanna Stern open the lecture series. She's the senior personal technology columnist for the Wall Street Journal, and as such, she tests out new AI apps and related equipment and interviews the people behind the technology. She was introduced by the moderator as not being able to be there. Well, sort of, she's sort of there, but well, you'll see. And then she appeared, they have big screens over the stage, and she appeared on the big screens, and it looked like it was going to be a Zoom presentation. The Joanna Stern on the screen said, "Today we will explore how generative AI is pushing the boundaries of creativity and innovation and redefining what it means to be human." And then a woman walked out on the stage with her back to us, looking up at the screen, and she stood there and stared for a while, and then she turned to face us, and it was Joanna Stern. She explained that what we had just seen was not her. It was not a video of her. It was an AI-generated piece, and the AI generator picked up her image and her voice from everything that she'd ever posted online in her job working for the New York Times. The only thing she provided was the text, but you really couldn't tell that it was not just a video of her. Stern pointed out that the quality of AI responses depends on the quality of the prompts given, hence the very specific prompts that the music director had given ChatGPT to get the answers that he got. They only had, I think they did something like 10 different prompts for that sacred song service, and there was only one that they rejected. So she said that prompt engineering is now a new career path. They're actually teaching people how to come up with the best prompts for artificial intelligence generators. So that's going to be a new thing. She also pointed out that AI is subject to what they call hallucinations. If AI doesn't know an answer to a question or gets confused by the question, very often instead of saying, "I can't answer that question," it will make something up, and it will be totally untrue. And so she also said that one of the things we really need to do is to fact check AI. The troubling thing is how do you fact check something that you don't know is generated by artificial intelligence? So the lines about what is true and factual and what is not true and factual are becoming increasingly blurred. This technology is already subject to misuse. I was talking about this to my massage therapist, and her father actually got a phone call that was a scam call. It sounded exactly like her son's voice. He called and he said he was in Florida at the place they usually go together, and he got arrested and he needed blah, blah, blah. But instead of it being somebody else's voice, it was actually his voice. And that is what they are doing now, is they're doing a lot of, the only reason he didn't send the money was because he knew his grandson was right there in the room with him. So Stern kind of tested this out. I don't know if any of you have had the experience. A lot of banks now, when you call and want to do something, they're using voice ID. you talk for a few seconds, say a few words, and then they have an AI identifier, artificial intelligence identifier, who looks at certain markers in your voice, and then they use that to allow you access to your bank accounts. So she was concerned about this. So she used an AI voice generator. She recorded 20 seconds of her voice, then had this voice generator call her bank and make a request for access to her accounts. And the voice generator was able to fool the bank's security and allowed the voice generator into her accounts. So she said, don't use when they ask you if you want to use that, don't use that. But it really is pretty scary. She said, we're getting to the point where it will be hard, if not impossible, for artificial intelligence and humans to determine what is made by AI. This highlights the need for good regulation of the technology. And she said, we did such a great job with the internet. It's a little worrisome right now what might happen with this. She said, any one of us who's ever posted, emailed, or texted images or voice of ourselves are fair game without protective regulation. So the next guy who came the next day was very technical, and I dozed off during most of his. But on Wednesday, Kelly Carolyn and Jolie Fisher were the speakers. They did a joint presentation. Kelly Carolyn is George Carlin's daughter. She's a psychologist and comedian, and Carrie Fisher Jolie Fisher is Eddie Fisher's daughter and Carrie Fisher's half-sister. And she's also the secretary-treasurer for SAG-AFTRA. Carlin hooked up with Fisher when on January 10th, she started getting phone calls from friends and relatives asking her if she had seen the new George Carlin comedy special. George Carlin died in 2008. The comedy special was called I'm George Carlin and I'm Glad I'm Dead. She was horrified. She discovered that two comedians who have a podcast called Dudesy had fed all of her father's recorded video and audio material into an AI generator and then wrote jokes. And they had his image and voice tell their jokes on this special, but didn't tell people that's what was going on. She sued them. She won the lawsuit, but that's when she hooked up with Fisher. And the main reason SAG-AFTRA went on strike was over the idea of AI-generated content. During COVID, a lot of Hollywood producers in that were using synthetic actors. They had visual images of actors in their voice, and without getting permission or paying the actors, they were using their images and AI-generated content to be able to keep their shows on the air. People like Netflix and all that stuff, Disney were using these things. So that's what they were striking over. And they got a lot of what they wanted in their contracts, but they both pointed out that without law, there's no way to enforce what's in this contract. All they could do is go out on strike again if the contract is violated, which is not going to benefit them, because a lot of people who are actors and writers, they don't work regular jobs and they don't have a lot of money, and it's difficult for them. So Carlin said, our industry is built on community. Humans get together to make these things. One of the things that I've got myself, so the next person was Sir Andrew Steer. He's the president and CEO of the Bezos Earth Fund. He has a much more optimistic of artificial intelligence and its ability to be a game changer in global warming and climate change. He said they have the ability, and they are currently uploading every single tree on the face of the earth, and they can tell from satellite photos and everything how healthy the trees are, how much CO2, are the trees disappearing, are they being cut down? He said, so we have the ability now to protect the trees that are the lungs of the earth. He also said that they can build predictive models now and develop digital twins of what's actually going on with different species of trees and insects and animals on the earth. And they make a digital twin, and it's a model that's based on incredible amounts of data that people can't possibly put together, but artificial intelligence can. And he said, you can try things out on these digital twins. You can try different ideas and see how they affect the digital twin. Is it something that's going to make a difference? The other thing he pointed out that's going on right now is that cattle are the second most polluting species on the face of the earth next to humans. And artificial intelligence right now, it's because of the way ruminants digest their food. They produce large amounts of CO2. They have to burp. Things get fermented in this big rumen that they have in their body, and they have to be able to burp, and what they burp out is CO2 and large amounts of CO2. So they're using artificial intelligence to map the microbiome in the rumen of cattle and seeing if they can change the microbiome by feeding different kinds of foods that then hopefully will not produce as much gas. They also are looking at ways to use genetics to make food without killing the animal, to actually make meat by growing it in the lab from the DNA of the cattle, so that you don't have to have large numbers of cattle, and you also don't have to kill the cattle in order to have meat. It's kind of interesting. He also said that one of the things people point out is that artificial intelligence uses an incredible amount of electrical energy. He said that they estimate that by 2025, it's going to use over 1,000 terawatts, which basically is the equivalent of all the electricity that the Japanese use in a year. But he also said that one of the things that artificial intelligence is being used to do is to look at how we generate our electricity, how our grids work, and to make them more efficient, which is something that is very difficult for people to do. But again, his caveat was, we have to be very careful with these technologies and make sure there are regulations, and we have to make sure that they can't be hacked very easily. And then the last speaker at the morning talk was Jamie Metzl. Jamie Metzl is an interesting guy. He's written several books. His latest one is called Superconvergence, When AI, Technology, Genetics, and Medicine Collide. And so he talked a lot about the amazing stuff that we're able to do now medically. And hopefully, with the help of artificial intelligence, it will become more cost effective, because right now a lot of these treatments are extremely expensive. And so the one thing that I thought was really, really interesting was how they're using artificial intelligence in creating artificial limbs for people. We'll just play that. They don't require implants. They don't require anything except strapping this thing on, and you're actually People who have artificial hands can now feel the hands. They know what their hands are doing. They can actually feel them. They don't crush things, they don't drop things. It's just amazing, so.
To modern limbs made from carbon fiber and silicon. Once basic yet functional, they're now advanced and bionic. And here at Atom Limbs, I've come to see how the latest technology is bringing the next generation of artificial arms. They're developing a prosthetic with a full range of human motion that's using signals from the brain to control those movements.
The most advanced state-of-the-art prosthetics we control today is what you call myoelectric control. So that's putting electrodes on your stump or residual limb. And the difference between what you would do today with a state-of-the-art arm versus with an Atom Limbs arm is we basically cover your stump in electrodes. And when you first put the arm on, you take about 5 minutes and you train it up. And what that looks like is we say, all right, with your phantom limb that we can't see but that you can, flex your finger, extend your finger, rotate your wrist, rotate it the other way. And our machine learning and AI system takes a huge amount of training and spits out a result so that now you, whenever you think, can just move. So there's nothing in your head, nothing on your head, nothing in your arm. It's all this surface electrode and AI that basically powers it.
The arm is worn via a strengthened vest or shirt, which the arm connects to via an interface, reducing the need for custom-made sockets or the input of clinicians. Jason lost his left arm in an industrial accident in 2012. He's been working with Atom Limbs to test and develop their new prosthetic.
Tell me a little bit what this is like to operate. I mean, obviously, you're controlling this right now. You're moving this essentially by thinking about it. How are you thinking of that? What's the process that you're going through?
Well, just like with anything, like using your regular hand, I'm still thinking about the motions, and I have a phantom limb. It still feels like I'm just moving my regular hand.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult, obviously, because my muscles are tiny. With the TMR surgery, they've actually taken, the 3 major nerves that are controlling your entire hand and integrated them into 3 different muscles. So now you're not flexing the entire muscle now, you're flexing just a portion of that muscle. And so there's a lot of concentration that has to go into making those movements. It's not as natural, obviously, as moving your regular hand. It's over time and just with practice, I think it's just become easier over the years.
Many existing bionic arms have a range of predetermined or programmable grips that the hand can perform, such as pinch grips or full fist. The Atom Limbs arm allows for individual finger control with haptic feedback.
So you're getting vibration or something from the arm that's telling you when you're gripping the glass?
Yes, exactly. When I reach in, I grab something and I hold it for a certain amount of time. Right now, already, just at that point, it kicked in, and I'm getting some vibrational feedback here. So that's my indicator that I know that the hand is not going to automatically open and drop whatever I'm holding. And so that it's nobody else does that, and it's compared to my old prosthetic, there was always you had to constantly, I don't have to sit here and watch the baseball right here in my hand because I know it's got a good grip.
Although not an amputee myself, I was able to put on some sensors and try a digital twin of the arm via the control software. And it's safe to say, it was a hit.
No way.
Within just a few minutes of training, I was able to perform several different motions and movements of the arm.
What the? This is phenomenal. This is one of the most incredible things I've ever done. The only way I can describe it is it's like on a games controller, I've mapped different buttons to different muscles that I've got here. So when you said for the grip, well, I don't know what a grip feels like, so I just chose something that sort of feels vaguely similar, and that's the one that I'm using to open and close the hand, and the same for the elbow. Like the elbow one's a bit easier for me to do because I have that range of motion, so that's like the most natural one. But for like the grip, there we go, see? And then for the wrist is probably the most difficult one because I'm having to use a bit of rotation. This probably just looks really mundane to most people, but to me, this is incredible.
The arm being developed here is still at an early stage. The the company are gathering data ahead of regulatory filings in the US. Of course, the biggest stumbling block for disabled people accessing new technology is cost, with the latest developments often being unaffordable except for those with deep pockets. Exactly how much the Atom Limbs arm will be is yet to be confirmed, though they claim the goal is to make it available at around the same price as a non-bionic arm in the US, approximately $20,000. As technology advances, the hope is that prosthetics in the future will become more affordable, more versatile, and ultimately
So that's pretty amazing. There were a couple of other speakers. There was one speaker who was concerned about do robots have souls? And there are actually people who think that they will be able to live forever by uploading their thoughts and all of their stuff they've put on the internet to the cloud, and they will live in the cloud forever, and there will be artificial intelligence so that it'll be like their brain lives forever even when their body is gone. And one of the things that Joanna Stern said, she interviewed the CEO of Microsoft. And all of these speakers were saying that we need to look at AI as a tool. And the head of Microsoft said, we need to stop thinking about AI as a tool. We should be thinking about it as a new digital species. And Joanna Stern, if you recall, she started out saying, today we will explore how generative AI is pushing the boundaries of creativity and innovation and redefining what it means to be human. And basically, the upshot of almost every single one of these talks, and the final thing that Joanna Stern said was, we need to define what it means to be human. Thank you. Are there any announcements? Anybody else? Oops. You wouldn't object to like 5 mac and cheese dishes or? So let's extinguish the chalice. May the light, oops, wrong one. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.